Here's some of the latest on what's going on with the Charlie Kirk shooting by Tyler Robinson. Tyler Robinson apparently is not cooperating with authorities, but there's now talk about a DNA link, and so we're going to watch Kash Patel talk about that. Also, a lot of folks talking about how this rifle in this newer box right here may not have been the firing weapon. This weapon was found with shell casings such as "Catch This, Fascist," arguing, these potential leftist tendencies of Tyler Robinson. A lot of speculation around how this scope couldn't have reasonably been fired in this position. Some people questioning if the scope slid back after being shot, if this is somebody who had a new rifle and they didn't tighten it appropriately, and that's why maybe one shot was taken, it slid back, and, the individual left. Here's an example where somebody shows their very similar bolt-action rifle. Here's obviously your bolt action, showing the alignment of the scope with the back of the rifle here before you get into the stock. So, a lot about this, but what apparently is now coming out is that Kash Patel is saying investigators have found DNA evidence linking Tyler Robinson to the scene of last week's shooting. That apparently DNA was found on a screwdriver, which I have to say, that's kind of impressive to lift DNA off a screwdriver. I suppose it's a simple, clean surface, but boy, you'd have to get like sweat or something off of there and just swab a screwdriver. That's pretty impressive. But anyway, and on a towel. Who knows? Maybe that was like a hair follicle or whatever. Because, hair itself doesn't have DNA. It's your hair root. I guess it wouldn't be a follicle. It's the root of a hair that would have the DNA. But anyway, DNA was found on a screwdriver as well as a towel that was wrapped around the firearm believed to be used in the shooting. I can report today that DNA hits from the towel that was wrapped around the firearm and the DNA on the screw are positively processed for the suspect in custody. Now, we'll take a listen to some parts of this here. This is where you see the FBI discuss this idea of Tyler's roommate transitioning. The thing to talk about here is yesterday we spoke at length about the potential lack of a home that Tyler had, a community, right? And his relationship with his potentially trans roommate, and then whether Tyler Robinson is gay or trans himself or whatever, and how all of this could be tied into mental illness, and why would he do such a thing. A lot of this is, as we always have to remember, speculation to some extent, because we don't have the answers. We don't know what drugs Tyler Robinson was on, if any. We don't know all of the facts or details yet, but these are things we're going to be looking for. So let's get into this.
But his roommate was indeed a boyfriend who is transitioning from male to female, and that he is cooperating with authorities.
A Fox News alert: Charlie Kirk's murder suspect refusing to cooperate.
Right, refusing to cooperate, but then they find this DNA evidence. So what we're going to do now is let's fast forward a little bit, and let's get into the Kash Patel interview, and let's see what Patel has to say.
Around 5 p.m. local on September 11th was walk the entire crime scene, including the foots the suspect himself took. And what we learned was there was evidence, DNA evidence that could be collected and had been collected, including a screwdriver that was found on the rooftop. Also, we went over to the scene in the wooded area where the fire...
Oh, the screwdriver, by the way, that could be what he used to adjust the scope with, and maybe he just didn't do a good job. Who knows?
Firearm was discarded, and the firearm had a towel wrapped around it. It's important. I'll get back to that later. I even walked into the wooded area in the ravine, so I knew from my investigative experience what I...
By the way, big respect for Kash Patel being there and actually going to the scene himself. I think this is a great way for the administration to show how serious they're taking this, and I think it's awesome they sent Vance and Kash Patel there.
Could bring to the table and what decisions I needed to make. And having the support of President Trump and the full support of the...
Oh, somebody saying the screwdriver was to break down the gun. Well, remember, we saw him carrying it in his pants. It's possible that it was not necessarily to break down the gun. I suppose it could have been. It might have been to assemble the gun, because he had it in his pants, right? So maybe, to like get the scope seated, he needed the screwdriver.
The White House was what we needed for these resources to happen. And I can report today that the DNA hits from the towel that was wrapped around the firearm and the DNA on the screwdriver are positively processed for the suspect in custody.
Let's go.
So, Mr. Director, that is vital. That is breaking news.
I mean, remember, people are always innocent until proven guilty, but this is pretty damning, right? Especially if he's not cooperating. It does sound like his boyfriend or roommate or whatever it is, girlfriend, nobody really knows what to call the person at this point, is cooperating with the FBI. So we'll see. We also got a report now. FBI is investigating at least 7 social media accounts that appear to have prior, holy crap, no way. The FBI is investigating at least 7 social media accounts that appear to have prior knowledge of the Charlie Kirk assassination plan. I can't even say it correctly because that is a huge allegation. That is a huge allegation that potentially there were 7 social media accounts that knew this was happening, because that means they didn't end up saying anything, right? That's where it gets bad, is if you knew this was going to happen and you didn't say anything about it. That's dirty. That now you're complicit in murder. That's scary. So wow, if that's true, that's huge. Okay, let's keep going.
News and vital information, because now you have the casings for the gun, so you connect the gun. Now you got his DNA on it. That's huge. But I also want to get to another part.
I just got to interrupt. Sorry, I just got to interrupt. We have the DNA on the screwdriver that was found on the rooftop and the towel that the firearm was wrapped in. The firearm itself, this is a great point. Thanks for raising it.
Yeah, no problem.
That is being processed by ATF laboratories in Maryland, and I believe they'll speak to that at a later date when their process is incomplete. But I just want to let you know the FBI handled the screwdriver and the towel found on the scene.
That is important clarification, Mr. Director. I want to get to the 20 members in that group chat. Have they been brought in from questioning? And the group chat that from our reporting that we're hearing is from after the assassination. Do you have the messages from before the assassination?
Well, let me take a step back and tell you what we were doing while we were there and how we were led to the suspect so that this all fits into the puzzle. We, as soon as we learned of the shooting, we were able to, I think Charlie Kirk was shot at 12:23 local time on September 10th. By 12:39 p.m. local time, FBI assets were on scene securing the scene. We then launched at 10 a.m. the next day the first images of the suspect. Myself and the deputy arrived at 5 p.m. local time on September 11th. And then what we did was decided to have a press conference at 8 p.m. local, where we issued for the first time FBI obtained video footage that we seized from the security camera surveillance system and new images, enhanced images. I decided to release immediately to the public because we were working with the public and the media to find this killer. Shortly after that 8 p.m. release, at 10 p.m. local time, the suspect was in custody. Why? Because the father informed us, pursuant to an interview of him.
Yeah, it was the uncle. The uncle saw the picture. So the Wall Street Journal reported that the uncle saw the picture. The picture is what led to the arrest. So the FBI identified the individual. They had their press conference. I covered this, and they said shortly we'll be releasing photos. When the photo was released, the uncle saw the photo. The uncle then gets on the phone and calls the father, and the father says, "My day just went to shit." Well, duh. And then, of course, the uncle and the father dialogued that they had no idea why Tyler Robinson would do this. Then it turned to the father and apparently the minister of that family, maybe their local church or whatever. Remember, they're from a small town, seems to be very, a very Christian community, very small town. And potentially, if Tyler Robinson had, other sexual tendencies that wouldn't fit in, meaning that potentially he had mental health issues before he left home, then went to a school that he ended up dropping out of after a semester there, suggesting he couldn't fit in over there as well. We're not looking for excuses here. We're just trying to put together the pieces of the puzzle here to see, okay, here was a person that even his mother, who was a social worker, couldn't identify was having problems. Which is weird because the Thomas Crooks assassin, the Trump assassin, attempted assassin, his mother and father were social workers. It's just weird. It's all weird. But it was the uncle who saw the picture. So the picture led to this capture.
That he looked at the video that we...
Yes, and then I see somebody Alfonso in the comments says, so did they get the 100K? The FBI did release a bounty for $100,000 for information leading to the arrest. I hope they did. Hopefully the FBI doesn't loophole out of that, because they definitely made him turn himself in. They did their part as you're supposed to do. But that bounty was huge. Okay, you usually only see that for FBI top 10 most wanted people. That is a huge bounty. You usually see 10 to 20K for these bounties. 100K. That was a huge, historically huge bounty. And I think it was probably Trump getting on the phone being like, catch this son of a bitch. This is, this is an assault on MAGA. And we're not standing for it. I think that's what happened here.
He released that evening and the enhanced photos and identified the suspect. That's how fast the FBI was working to put out information in real time. And for a comparative sake, the Boston bombing, the FBI didn't release images for 3 days. We know we didn't have 3 days. I made an executive decision on an investigative and operational need, and it turned out to be the right move because the men and women of the FBI said that's what we should be doing.
Yeah, we knew.
He's right. Look, I don't think... I have my own criticisms of some of the things that Kash Patel does. I think sometimes some of the things he says are confusing. I'll walk some of that back. It doesn't matter for the context of this video. My opinion about Patel does not matter. But that now qualifying that my opinion doesn't matter, I will say, I personally believe that was a good decision to release the photo because ultimately it proved results.
Video was released. We said it here on Fox and Friends. Someone's going to recognize this person because someone was friends with him, his family.
Of course.
Someone knows this guy. Those images were crystal clear. Mm-hmm. Tell us what you know about his background.
I'm honestly surprised the kid didn't wear a mask.
Childhood, his father.
If you had a ski mask on, you know how much harder it'd be to find this schmuck right now? If he had a ski mask on? I know that's weird. How are you gonna wear a ski mask and not get people to call the cops on you? Even a COVID mask. Do the Luigi Maggioni. Wear an N95 and sunglasses with a hoodie. Dude, you couldn't see him at all. But he didn't. He had his face out clear as day. I mean, he had sunglasses, but who cares?
Father who had to turn him in.
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to ignore the last question. Going back to the group chats real quick, there's more than 20 individuals.
Somebody says you don't get out of the event with a ski mask. I agree. The ski mask is not the best example, but remember, he also wasn't in the event. He was able to escape right into the parking lot, which we suspected before we got the footage that that's exactly what the shooter would do, and it's exactly what ended up happening.
But this is a great point. I want to lay out how this works. People think we can just get in these group chats and immediately find out who's in there.
Somebody's like, don't help the crazies. Well, I mean, this is a red flag, right? If you see somebody with a mask and glasses and a hoodie on, you should be a little sussed out. It's more of a warning.
We, the FBI, are the investigatory body supporting multiple prosecutions and ongoing investigations. And that's another point. Our investigation at the FBI is ongoing. And there are scores of people in this Discord chat room. But we have to effectuate legal process. We have to go out there with search warrants so that if prosecutors want to later use this evidence, it's not tainted by being illegally obtained. We, the FBI, are running the investigation pointedly on the Discord chat group. There are scores of individuals that are going to be spoken to. There are also lots of family members and friends that have already been spoken to. And one more point on forensics. We were able to obtain in record time the text message chain between the suspect and his live-in partner, as well as other critical cellular information from our CAS team that analyzes cell phone data towers in the area to pinpoint the locations of the suspect and other individuals he was speaking with. This is critical.
Yeah, just so you know how that works. All phones are tracked on their locations. We don't necessarily know who's who. But if we have a suspect and you zoom into, let's say, my house right now, you might see 2 dots. You'll see a Lauren dot and a Kevin dot. You don't necessarily know which one's which. But then you see the dot go to Starbucks. And then I post on Instagram, yo, I'm at Starbucks, whatever, right? Now you know that of those 2 dots, that one is probably Kevin. Now you could follow that dot around the world, wherever you want. So you don't have to necessarily know. Like, what you could do is look at, all right, whose dot was on that roof, and just follow that dot where it goes. You don't have to know that that's Tyler Robinson's phone. You just have to know that that dot was at that roof, and we're going to follow that dot. So the cell phone tracking data is really, really scary good right now. Really scary good. And that voids, by the way, like that goes way past all your privacy concerns because it's not identified to you. So anybody can get this data almost. It's really scary.
Information that the FBI processed and got to prosecutors so they can lawfully use it in a court of law. And our investigation, our interviews continue, but we've learned some shocking things when we spoke to his family and friends as well.
You want to share them? Those shocking things?
Sure. And my job as FBI director is not to speak to motive, is to speak to the facts. And that's what I'm going to do. His family has collectively told investigators that he subscribed to left-wing ideology, and even more so in these last couple of years. Yeah. And he had a text message exchange.
And remember what we found yesterday, we discussed this yesterday in our research, that most Americans are more moderate than the extreme social media that they might listen to. Like, if you might listen to Fox News, and you might yourself recognize that they're somewhat extreme sometimes, very one directional. But that doesn't mean you're extreme. This is just normal. This is the way media works today. This is the way social media works. The extreme gets the attention. That's the way the algos work. So that's what algos, that's what creators, and that's what these media stations cater to. That's the mainstream way. That doesn't make you extreme. However, if you are really solidly on the far right, or even just really solidly deep in the right, or deep into the left, you fail to recognize the perspectives of the other side, typically. So this Tyler Robinson, if it is true that he was so deeply ingrained in far left ideology, it makes sociological sense that he had no respect for the perspectives of the people on the right. Disconnected from reality.
The suspect with another individual in which he claimed that he had an opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and he was going to do it because of his hatred for what Charlie stood for. Those are factually accurate.
Nobody reported that. That's insane. So he told people he was going to take him out. That's complicit. That person is complicit in murder.
Investigatory findings by the FBI that we've handed over to the local authorities and the federal authorities to make their prosecutorial decisions. But I believe in this instance of such public importance, the public has a right to know. And I've told you I'm committed to transparency, and that's what I'm doing here today.
Why didn't that person that he was talking to, why didn't that person say something?
Yeah, exactly.
Our investigation is ongoing. That's a great question, and we don't have an answer on that just yet.
But Mr. Director, you're right. Your job is not to speak to ideology, but you do have the BAU, the Behavior Analysis Unit, that are there. And my sources, people that are within the Bureau and outside that used to be FBI, tell me that the BAU has been encouraged not to tackle the transgender issue from an ideology standpoint. Have you heard that? Are you tackling that? I know you've only been there recently, but you can't have a political slant saying we're not going to attack different political ideologies because it's going to offend someone.
You're absolutely right, and that's why me and the deputy have been quarterbacking this investigation ourselves. There is no one at the FBI that is going to politicize this investigation. There's no one at Quantico or anywhere else that is going to say we are not looking at X or Y. We are looking at the facts, and that is why we are releasing the facts in record.
I do appreciate them releasing this info right away. I'm just also at the same time looking here like, yeah, here's an article. Influencers on right and left dealing with doubts and fears about security and stuff. Ben Shapiro did this whole marketing pitch. Let's be real and call it what it is. He did this whole pitch about we're not going to cancel events on colleges. We're going to go to colleges. F these people trying to cause fear. And that's great messaging. On one hand, that's fantastic. It's you know what? Good for you, Ben Shapiro. Stand up for the American rights to free speech and don't cower away. But last Wednesday, they also literally canceled a Ben Shapiro event in Simi Valley, California, which is 40 minutes from me. And they canceled it after the shooting. So it's kind of on one hand, you're we're not going to cancel our tour. On the other hand, you're canceling events. There's just a lot of doubt right now going on with security in them. I think probably the lessons that you learn from this and the Trump shooting is you just can't do outdoor events. It's sad. because in an indoor environment, you could security screen and you could actually conduct proper security, which you just can't do as well on these outdoor events.
Fashion. If you go back and look at historical cases like Luigi Mangione and the Boston bombing, how long did it take the Bureau to release information to the public? We're not
this
doing
is getting
that.
a little political.
Those two manhunts took 5 days, and they happened in downtown major metropolises. We apprehended our suspect in 33 hours because we were transparent and open with the American public, and we're going to continue to do that. So anyone that thinks that the FBI...
Oh, by the way, just adding to this family talk, because I've been talking about this, here's a piece literally as well. The governor of Utah, Spencer Cox of Utah, provided new information on Tyler Robinson, saying there was clearly a leftist ideology with this assassin. He said, citing the suspect's family and romantic partner, we continue to get more confirmation that this person that he was living with was a romantic partner.
Is not on top of its game, and that me and the deputy and everybody in leadership in our Salt Lake City field office in Quantico is doing anything politically. I'm not having it, and if you've heard anything else about it, they are lying to you. We're on it.
That's why it's so important that you came on, and we're thrilled you are. A couple other things. I have 2 quick questions. One, is it true, what the governor said yesterday, that he had a written note that you're looking into now prior to the assassination? Did he have a note? And the other one question is, the person that was texting with him about, I have a shot at taking out Charlie Kirk, can that person be charged?
Yes.
So I'll take those in reverse. The charging decisions are up to our great partners at the Department of Justice and the Attorney General, who have been wonderful providing resources during this entire process. And we'll let them speak to any charging decisions. But we, the FBI, are investigating. As I said, our investigation is ongoing. We're interviewing dozens and dozens of suspects, subjects, witnesses, and the like, and continuing to examine forensic information, including cell phone data and DNA analyses. And once we make those findings handed over to our partners, as we're doing in real time, they'll make those decisions. And I'm sorry, Brian, I forgot your other question.
You had a written note. Did he write a written note before the assassination attempt? That's what the governor said yesterday. And what did that say, if you could share?
So what I'm able to say, I'm sorry. So what I'm able to say is, I addressed it partially earlier, is that the written note, we believe, did exist, and we have evidence to show what was in that note, which is, and I'm going to summarize, basically saying, the suspect wrote a note saying, I have the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it. That note was written before the shooting. Evidence of its existence, we now have learned, existed before the shooting, was in the location in the suspect and partner's home. But we have since learned that the note, even though it has been destroyed, we have found forensic evidence of the note.
Wait. That's huge. That means the partner may have seen or known this was going to happen, said nothing, which means complicit. Maybe he didn't know about the note, right? But, like, what if there was a note, like, at the coffee machine or the refrigerator, like, I'm going to take out Kirk today, and the guy didn't say anything? That means he shares, especially if he is trans. That means his partner shares the sentiment of anti-Charlie Kirk and basically is complicit. He should be charged and arrested as well. Now, I know right now he's cooperating with the FBI, probably because he's fearful that if he doesn't, he's going to get bagged. And frankly, whether he does or doesn't, he probably will if he knew that note existed. And the fact that then the note was destroyed, which then sends a signal of like, whoa, why would you destroy it if you didn't know about it beforehand? And now Kash Patel is telling us, we were able to piece it back together or whatever. Whoa, this story is getting crazy.
And we have confirmed what that note says because of our aggressive interview posture at the FBI.
Somebody here is saying the partner groomed this kid. It's possible that if that partner was trans and that partner has the mental health issues we described yesterday in my video detailing trans mental health issues, that he ended up taking advantage of Tyler Robinson to basically be the perpetrator. Like, it's like the worst kind of trans shooter. It's the trans shooter who motivates somebody else to be the shooter or manipulates somebody else to be the shooter. We don't know that. That's speculation, okay? And it's speculation. We don't know. The partner could be innocent. He could have known. I don't know what the hell to call him. Could have known nothing.
So, Mr. Director, I'm curious, and there has been some criticism, so I appreciate you coming on our program and discussing it with our audience. Can you tell us what was happening on the ground? Apparently, according to sources, you weren't getting...
Somebody in the chat says, why are you pushing the blame to the partner? I'm not pushing the blame to the partner. I want to be crystal clear about that. I'm saying the partner may be complicit in not preventing this, therefore enabling the murder. And I'm saying that there is a possibility, that's not shifting blame. I'm saying there's a possibility that the actions of the partner manipulated the evil, vile actions of Tyler Robinson. Tyler Robinson still holds the bag. He's still the trigger puller. He's the actor, right? He's still the assassin. But outside influences can certainly be liable for that manipulation, or at least the inducement to push somebody over the edge to actually do it. You know, especially there's so much talk on social media about like, oh, you know, grow a pair, have some balls, like you gotta be strong, you gotta fight for what you believe in. Remember in the research we studied yesterday, there is a disassociation with reality, where the FBI reports that people who have these mental illnesses, they believe they are morally superior and they don't recognize consequences for themselves because they justify their own actions with their own moral superiority that they imagine.
Some information, you requested photos, and you were being stonewalled. Now, I think it's important to know there's always some sort of tension between local cops on the ground and the feds. They want to handle their own investigation, but of course, with an investigation of this magnitude, you have to step in, you have the resources. But can you explain, was it the local field office, was it the state police? What was going on?
Somebody says, where are the official pictures of the engraved bullets? Yeah, the FBI has not released those yet. And Steve Crowder got subpoenaed by the ATF for leaking that they even had these, the evidence of these inscribed bullets. A subpoena, remember, is just a request for information. It's probably like, how the hell did you get our internal memo notes? Fair, okay? Fair for the FBI or the ATF to subpoena over that.
So the local authorities have been fantastic. Okay. The local sheriff, the state PD have been wonderful. And any investigation, as you hinted to, of this magnitude has so many people in it because I'd made the decision to surge so many resources. And to get the information up to me was of the utmost priority. So I worked with my team to say, hey, there's not going to be any delays. We're not going to do it the way we normally do things. So the only thing that people were doing at the FBI was how they knew how to do things. I had to expedite that process. That's my job. That's what I thought this case deserved. And that's what this case was rightly calling for. So I made the tough calls. But I wasn't critical of anyone in particular. I just said, we got to move faster. And that was my call to make. And if there's any criticism there, you can put it right here.
Who wasn't giving you information, Director? Who wasn't giving you the photos when you requested them quickly and it didn't make it to you? Who denied that order?
It's not a denial of the order. Just to clarify, I'm glad we're talking about this. The photos were produced. They just weren't produced in a timely fashion that I felt was appropriate for an investigation of this magnitude. So I came in and I accelerated that process.
Right. So in the 24 hours after, when we were still looking for the guy,
I don't love Kash Patel either, and he's really shilling for like how great the FBI is now under him and stuff. There's a lot of shilling going on here, but he is dropping some notes that are very interesting.
About it. And what do you have to say about the criticism?
Mind you, in case you're new here, I hate, like, my goal is to be hated by everyone. I love everyone. My goal is to be hated by everybody, though, because it just keeps me neutral. So I'm sorry if I'm offending anyone.
No, I appreciate this opportunity. Look, as I stated, I was being transparent with working with the public on our findings as I had them. I stated in that message that we had a subject and that we were going to interview him, and we did, and he was released. The job of the FBI is not just to manhunt the actual suspect who did the killing or suspects, but it's also to eliminate targets and eliminate subjects who are not involved in the process, and that's what we were doing. Could I have worded it a little better in the heat of the moment? Sure. But do I regret putting it out? Absolutely not. I was telling the world what the FBI was doing as we were doing, and I'm continuing to do that, and I challenge anyone out there to find a director that has been more transparent and more willing to work the media.
This is basically the end of the interview. This is huge, though. DNA evidence, more insights on the partner, evidence on the notes, potential complicit charges to come. some more info on the encrypted bullets, the leftist ideology, the conservative upraising, the mental health challenges that potentially are a factor here. Again, we still don't have facts on drugs or the trans partner, or even confirmation of that, although that seems to be pretty consistent at this point. This is a lot of extra detail on the Charlie Kirk shooting.
Why not advertise these things that you told us here? I feel like nobody else knows about this.
We'll try a little advertising and see how it goes.
Congratulations, man. You have done so much. People love you. People look up to you.
Kevin Paffrath there, financial analyst and YouTuber. Meet Kevin. Always great to get your take.